Hello, this is part one of my elevator tutorial. By the end of this tutorial, you're going to be having an elevator that can be interacted with through several different types of buttons, and the doors are going to be able to open and close. First off, you're going to open your project, but in my case here, I'm just going to create a new one using the third-person template. You can follow along exactly if you'd like. However, this can be added pretty easily to whatever code you've already implemented. So here, I'm going to start with my third-person template. I'm going to make sure that starter content is turned off. You can have it on if you'd like. I just don't like to have starter content on. I'm going to create this here. Alright, so I've just loaded into my game here, and I have the starter blueprint. However, this, like I said before, this can be done in any map. First of all, this is going to be a first-person tutorial. It makes it a little bit easier with the line tracing. You don't have to put it in first person, however, I would like to, and I'll walk through how to do that. You're going to find your third-person folder, blueprints, and then here you can find your character. However, you can locate your own character and do the same to it as well. I'm going to open it here. I'm going to go over to the viewport. As you can see, we have the follow camera and a camera boom. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag onto the camera boom to detach it, and then delete the camera boom. Now my follow camera needs something to follow. I'm going to drag it over the mesh, so now it's going to follow the player mesh. Now we need to find what part it needs to be socketed to, so I'm going to locate the head and attach it there. Immediately it's a little bit off, so we're going to reset the location, and then we're going to go ahead and click rotate here. Make sure that the snap is on, and then on the x-axis you're going to rotate it 90 degrees. Compile and save. Now when you play, you should see that we have a really wonky first-person camera. It works, but it's not amazing. And there are two things we can do to fix that. First off, I like to turn off grid. You can keep it on if you'd like, but I find it makes it get in the way. So I'm going to turn off grid here, and on move, I'm going to move the camera until it is just about on the center part of the face here. I'm going to slow down my camera too, so I can kind of see. Now what I'm going to do, with the follow camera selected, on the right side here in the details panel, we should see a setting called use pawn control rotation. We're going to go ahead and tick that. Now we're going to go ahead up here to the BP underscore third person character, or just whatever your character's name is with this little logo on the side. And on the details panel here, we're going to type yaw. And you're going to find use controller rotation yaw. We're going to check that as well. Compile and save. Now when we play the game, we should see that it is actually following our character correctly. Next we're going to go to the event graph here, and we're going to go ahead and set up a line trace so we can start our interaction. First of all, we're going to have to add a key. For this example I'm going to use F, but you can choose whatever key you want to be your interaction button. So I'm going to scroll through here and I'm going to find F. Now when pressed, we're going to do line trace by channel. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and select our follow camera here and drag it in. And then off of that, we're going to do get world location. That is going to go ahead and plug into the start here. We're going to drag off the follow camera again and say get world rotation. Then off of that, we're going to get forward vector. Just going to organize it here a little bit. Now we're going to drag off of our get world location and do add. The result of the add is going to be our end. And basically, now we need to multiply our forward vector by how far we want the line to go. Just going to put this all in here, move this a little bit back. Alright, so this pin here, we need it to be a float, so we're going to right click on this pin and do to float. Now we're going to choose our distance. I found a good line distance to be 300. Compile and save. Choose the draw debug type as for duration so we can make sure that it's actually working. So I compiled and saved, and when we press play, now when we press your button, you should be seeing a line come out of about the distance you chose. If you want it to be a little longer, you can shorten it or lengthen it. It's your choice. Now we don't want a line trace to be triggered by anything. We only want it to trigger whenever we hit an actor. So we can set that up. If you hold B in left click as a little tip, it will always put down a branch, or you can just look up branch. It's just faster to hold B in left click. Once you have your branch down, you're going to connect it up here. So now when we drag out hit, we can drag out the information of what the line is hitting. And we're going to hit break, hit results. And we're just going to leave it here because normally we would choose the hit actor, saying what actor is the line hitting, and it will grab what actor is being hit. However, we do not have an interaction system yet, or actors that can be communicated to, so we need to set that up right now. Compile and save. Alright, so within your content folder, we're going to start organizing. First of all, we are going to set down a new folder and name it Elevator System. You can organize this wherever you like. However, it's always good to organize. Don't just throw something down a folder because it's going to be really hard to find it later. Open this folder. I'm going to put down a new folder and name it Mesh. We're going to make another folder and name it Sounds. And then we're just going to leave this here. Under Mesh, if you check the description in this video, I have made some quick 3D models that you can use. These 3D models are going to be used to make the elevator actor. You can use your own. The code's going to work pretty closely to the same, maybe just a couple changes around on some numbers, but it'll be pretty similar no matter what you use. You're going to drag all your mesh in. You can leave these settings just the same, it doesn't matter. Now you're going to hit import all. You can go ahead and delete the world grid material here. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and open this elevator static mesh. Since we need the player to be able to go inside it, just any collision won't work. It'll block the player out. So just to test it, we're going to go back to our level. We're going to drag out the elevator onto the floor. And then if you see when we press play, the character has a hard time getting in. So a way to fix that, we're going to go back to our elevator static mesh, go to collision, remove collision, click collision again. We're going to add a new one that allows the player in. So let's do a box simplified collision. Should show up green here. However, we still won't be able to enter it. What we have to do, we have to scroll down here on the details until we find this here, collision complexity. We're going to select it and choose use complex collision as simple. Now it should show up as this. Save it and close it. Now when we play, we should be able to enter. Yep, it looks like the collision is perfect. Now we're going to go back into our elevator system folder, go to sounds, and import the sounds in the description as well, unless you want to use your own. Now that we have the sounds imported, we just have to create the actor for the elevator. So here in the main folder here, we're going to right click, blueprint class, actor, and we're going to name it BP underscore elevator. Go ahead and open that actor. First of all, we have to import all the mesh and then neatly organize it. So what I would do is I would go ahead and drag out your elevator onto the floor here, just so we can kind of see it form and see if it's looking about right. So we're going to go back into here, add static mesh, if I can spell, static mesh. Let's just name this elevator. We're going to go on the right side here to the details and the static mesh. We're going to find our elevator mesh here. It should load in. Now we need to add another static mesh. Let's name this door 1. And also make sure that your door is a drop down of the elevator itself. If it looks like this instead, just go ahead and drag the door onto elevator like this. Now we're going to go select door 1. We can hit right click on door 1, choose duplicate, door 2, and do the same. Now we should have our elevator here. However, if we go inside, we can see it will be pretty dark. So what we can do, select the elevator, add, and we can do point light. Now go ahead and drag that point light up into the ceiling like this. Compile and save. So now when we go out into our world, we should have an elevator here. I'm going to go ahead and move it over here just to have room. Alright. So now we should have an elevator over here. Now what we're going to do is we can create a door button that will open and close the doors. Right click, blueprint glass, actor, name it BP underscore door button. We're going to open it up, just like before, add static mesh, and name it button. Right here, under the static mesh, we're going to choose our elevator button mesh. Now this is completely optional, but I like it to organize the buttons. We're going to go down to our content drawer, and we're going to create a material for this button and make it red or whatever color you'd like. So we're going to right click in the folder here, new folder, name it materials. Open that folder up, right click, material. I'm going to do M underscore red or whatever color you'd like it to be. We're going to open that material up. Now in the materials tab, if we hold the number 4 and left click, it'll open a color wheel. Now what we have to do, open the constant and drag all the way to whichever color you would like. I'm going to choose red and click OK. Once you have your color chosen, and drag this pen into base color and click apply at the top left here, and then you can close this material. Now back at our button, we should see the materials tab here, and then we're just going to choose the one we just made. Compile and save. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into our world and go ahead and add our button on our elevator. What I like to do, I like to put my button about right there. Then what I like to do is click on the button, press Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Then you're going to rotate it 180 degrees. And then you're going to move it inside of the elevator so that you can press the button on either side to open and close the door. Just like that. Alright, now your elevator should be looking like this so far. We still have that line trace we can see as well. Now we have a button, but we have no way to interact with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an interface that allows us to carry over actions to different blueprints. This is extremely helpful when it comes to especially interaction systems or maybe even inventory systems, and in the future you can use them as well. Right click. We're going to go down to Blueprint, this tab here. We're going to find Blueprint Interface. Going to name it BP underscore interaction interface. Now we're going to go ahead and open it. It'll have us a function ready to name. All you have to do is name the function and that's it. And I'm going to name it interact. There we go. Compile and save. Now you can close out the interaction interface. Now back in your button here, we're going to have to add an interface to both our elevator and the button so they can work together with the same actions. So what we can do, in the door button, go to class settings, and on the right here it should change, and now we have imports, and underneath that interfaces, if we click add, we can add interaction by looking it up. We have BP interaction interface, add it, and now on the left side here we see we have a new action that can be used, which is interact. We have to go ahead and do the same thing in the elevator. And it should appear under interfaces here. Compile and save. Back in our button here, we need to set up interaction. So what we need to do, if we head back to our player character, we can find at our line trace that we had break hit result here. If we drop down, we have hit actor. So now what we can do is we can drag out of hit actor and type interaction. And now we should see here, interact message. We're going to click that. Now we're going to plug it into true. What this is doing is that we're going to do a line trace and it's going to hit an object, and it's only going to interact with the object if it is an actor that can be interacted with. So now we can actually close this up and leave it like this, and compile and save. Now if we go back to our button and go to our event graph, we can delete everything except event begin play. Now what we need to do is at the beginning of the game, the button needs to find every single elevator that's in the map and add it to a list known as an array. So what we're going to do, drag off of here, get all actors of class. Now what we need to do is we need to select our elevator blueprint, BP_elevator. Now we're going to drag out of out actors and type for each loop. And what this is doing is this is looping over every single elevator actor and adding it to an array. So to finish that out, what we need to do, array element, add, and then under array here we should see add. Connect that. Now what we have done is we have created an array, and if we compile and save we do see an error. We'll fix that in a second. So what we have done is we have looked over every single actor that is an elevator in the map. Right now we only have one, and it's adding it to a list. And that list here, we're going to drag off, and when we let go, we can promote it to a variable. And then we're going to name it elevator array. Now when we compile and save, that error should be gone. Now we have a component known as elevator array usable, and we are going to be using that later. Now the reason that we're doing this is that if we tell one elevator's doors to open, and then we move to another elevator and ask its doors to open there, then it will only open that first elevator's doors. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a variable and name it index, and then we're going to change the type to an integer. Basically what an index is, it is a number that we can assign to each specific actor that can tie to the buttons. In that way, the buttons know which elevator it goes with and so forth. So that way the game doesn't get confused on which doors the buttons are supposed to open. And I'll demonstrate that here in a second. So over here on the index, we're going to change it to instance editable. And what that means is whenever we go to our world and we click on our button actor, it now allows us to change the value. So for example, if we made another button, we can make them two separate values. So let's say the button assigned to 0 goes to elevator 0, so it'll only open this elevator's doors. However, this button is index 1, so it'll only open elevator 1's doors. So that way, again, the game doesn't get confused. But we're going to leave this here at 0. We can change it later. So now we need to set up an interaction. So because we have our interaction interface, we can create an event off of it. So right click, and then we're going to do event interact. And now we should have this here. Whenever it's an interface, it'll have this little logo up here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do for each loop. And plugging into that loop, we're going to do our elevator array. Now we have an index for our door button, but not for our elevator. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our elevator blueprint. Under our variables, we're going to add a new one. It's going to be the exact same thing. It's going to be index of type integer and instance editable, compile and save. And now what we need to do, back at our button, we need to grab our array element, get index, and then what we're going to do is equal, and then we're going to plug in the index from our button get. Then what we're going to do, hold B, click, get a branch, plug it in. Now what we have done is we have made it that whenever we interact with the button, we are going to create an open door function, but it will only open the door that has the same index as the button. So like I said before, if the elevator has an index of 0 and the button has an index of 0, it will open. However, if the elevator is 1 and the button is 0, it will not open because they are not tied to each other with the same number. And that's how you kind of manage throughout your game what will use what, and this is being used in light switches as well. You can use it on doors and locks, all kinds of things. It's a good little tip that you can do. But now we need to make another interface for our elevator, so that way we can actually carry over commands like we just did. So now we're going to right click, go down to blueprint, blueprint interface, BP underscore elevator interface. Compile, save. Open the interface. We're going to name the first function toggle doors. Compile and save. Now we can close it. Now, back here at our button, we need to tell on interact with the open door button, we need to open the doors of the matching elevator with the index. Drag off of the array element here. Now we're going to choose toggle doors. Hook it up to true. Compile and save. And I forgot, we do also need to go to our class settings, like before, and we need to add the elevator interface as well. Once we add that, it should pop up toggle doors, compile and save. The reason that it worked is it sent a message, yet it's always good to have it as an interface. You can do this if you'd like to see if the code is working. You can drag off of toggle doors, get print text. You can just leave it as hello here, compile and save. And now when you go to third person map and press play, looking at the dot and pressing F, it should now say hello, yet when you look away and press F, it won't say hello because it knows it is interacting with that, and it also is prompting to interact, and by interacting, it is saying hello, if that makes sense. Now we can go back and delete our print text here and just leave it as is. Now this button is done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to BP underscore elevator, go ahead and delete everything here. We need to add, under class settings, the elevator interface as well. Once added, you will see toggle doors here. We can right click it and choose implement event. Now what's happening is that under the door button, it's saying this specific elevator is going to have its doors toggled. Now it's referencing back to this elevator on toggle doors, and now we're going to set up the animation for the doors. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a branch, we're going to connect it. What we need to do is we need to check if the doors are opened or closed. Now what we need to do is we need to drag off condition, promote to local variable, doors are closed, question mark. Oops, spelled that wrong. Now we're going to check, compile and save here, so we can change the default value, and by default, they are closed, so that is true. Now if it checks on the interact to open the doors, and the doors are closed, we're going to open them. So drag off of here and choose set. Now what we're going to do, copy and paste here and connect them. And as well as whenever the doors are not closed, we're going to close them. Compile and save. We're going to go ahead, add a sequence node. You can do that by holding S and then left clicking. We're going to do it for both. Now what we need to do is we need to add a timeline. If we just transformed the door normally, it would snap, it wouldn't be smooth. We want it to open smoothly. So what we're going to do, right click, add timeline. We're going to name it door 1. Now if we double click on this timeline and open it, we're going to add a new track. We're going to name it, add float length, and name it door float. The length of the track is how long you want the animation to be. So if you want your door to take 5 seconds to open, you leave it at 5. That's what I'm going to do. Now in the track here, right click, add key, make it 0 and 0. Right click, add key. We're going to do 5 or whatever your end value is and 1. So now what it's doing is it's smoothly transitioning from 0 to 1 over 5 seconds. Compile and save. Go back to your event graph. Now what we need to do is, if the doors are closed, we're going to open them and play the animation. On updated, we're going to do set relative location. You should see set relative location of door 1 or whatever you named your first door. Now what we're going to do is we're going to split the structure pin. Under door float, we're going to choose lerp. Now if you hold control, you can drag from A to alpha. And now what we need to do is we need to find out the start and end location of our door. So if we go to the viewport, the start location is 0, but the end location on the x-axis is going to be -90. So we need to go ahead and set that. So it's going to end at -90. What the lerp is doing is it's using the timeline to go from 0 to -90 in 5 seconds. So it's a smooth transition. Now we're going to plug this into the x since we only want it to move along the x. But if we leave these at 0, our door is going to teleport to the 0 on both the y and z. Now in our case, it should be fine since the y and z are both 0 anyway, but what we're going to do just to be safe and in case your circumstance is different, we're going to drag off of door 1 and do get relative location. We're going to split the structure pin. And then what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the y and z to make sure it stays in the spot it was before. Compile and save. Now whenever you play your game and you open it, walking up to the button and interacting with it will prompt the door to open. However, we're only opening one. It needs to slide over into the second door as well. So what we're going to do, we can go ahead and we can copy all of this and paste it. We're going to go ahead and name this timeline door 2. And we can delete this door 1 here and drag in door 2. And plug it into target and plug it into this target as well. Now on the second pin, we need to play the second door as well whenever we're opening the door. So drag over to play, compile and save. Now when we play it, we're going to find an issue that both the doors are moving to the same spot and it's stopping halfway open. Now we need to find the start and end distance of our second door too. Our start distance is 0 as well. However, it is double the distance, so it is -180 on the x-axis. So we're going to go ahead and change that value from -90 to -180. Now our doors open, but they do not close. So now, whenever our doors are set to open, we need to close them. That's a pretty easy fix. On our second sequence, on then 0, do reverse, then 1, reverse on the second one. Compile and save. Now playing our game, you should see walking up to an elevator and interacting. We'll open the doors. Once they're open, you can go ahead and close the doors. Our doors do have the ability to be open and closed while the animation is playing. If you're fine with that, you can keep it. However, I will change that in the next video. Thank you for watching, and in the second part, what we're going to do is we're going to set it up to now you can have multiple elevators stacked on top of each other, and we're going to add a floor button that when pressed, it will change what floor you're on.